Hello and welcome to the MG podcast, streaming live on Monday, the 29th of November 2021. We're here to talk all about the MG electric vehicles, hoping to inform and entertain you for about an hour or so. I'm Stuart Whitman, username Stuart46 on the forum, and joining us this week are MG EV owners Jennifer Curl from Signet in Tasmania.
Hello everyone, username Tassie Devil.
And then we've got Dave Bell from North Warwickshire.
Hi, FCAT53 on the forum.
And then we've got from North Yorkshire, Innovations Development Manager at Chorley Group, Miles Roberts.
Hi everyone, Miles per kilowatt hour on the forum.
And if you're watching live, thank you for joining us, and please click the like button and join in on the discussion in the chat window. If you're watching later, thank you for choosing to watch this video, and please subscribe to get a notification to when we go live next time. So in tonight's podcast, we're chatting about the hike in the prices of public charging, availability of public chargers. I had a bad experience on a round trip to Norwich. I don't know what anybody else, if they have any problems. Miles talking the MG5 recall and more feedback on the ZS EV. And then we've got Jennifer to share her experiences generally from down under with the MG ZS you have, don't you? Yep, behind you there. Yep, okay.
Yep.
And I've just clicked over last week 20,000 miles on my MG 5. So I'm going to do a little bit of a review on that. So before we start, so just keep putting stuff in the chat on the live YouTube bit, and we'll start with Dave. You want to talk about the price hike, didn't you? Was it you?
Yes, there were some people complaining about the recent price increase, and I've got to say that I think some are doing better than others, and that's fair to say. But the one that really bit me was the BP one, BP Pulse, because they're now charging more than the electric highway, and that's when you paid £7 a month.
I've found Pulse to be really frustrating. I tried to use it recently, and just even getting into the app, it was kept throwing me out, asking me to reset my password. I didn't even know. I avoid them. So when you say about the price hike, what kind of difference are there?
Well, at the moment it's 30 pence a kilowatt hour on the electric highway, which is actually now a great price, better than most people.
Yeah.
And they're charging 30, I think it's 36, and that's if you're a member and paying £7 a month.
Okay.
So I cancelled my subscription.
I went to Norwich. I went to Norwich a couple of weeks ago and ended up on an Ionity.
Yep.
69 pence.
Yeah.
Which is outrageous, isn't it?
Well, that's a non-member cost. If you're one of the clan, you've got one of the right cars with a deal, a monthly deal. It's not that price. It's actually a reasonable price. It's in the 30s.
Yeah, I saw it's about £16 a month, isn't it? But
or free with some cars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this evening I had to get onto an Instavolt, and they've put their price up in the last week. They notified everybody as well, didn't they, to 50 pence? I think it was. I paid this evening.
Yep.
Yeah. How about you, Jennifer? What's the sort of prices where you are?
I must say, honestly, we don't charge much at public stations, mainly because there's a lack of them in Tasmania. So, but they seem to range from, sorry, I was just trying to do the conversion. So somewhere between 50 cents and $1 per kilowatt hour. The most expensive ones is the $1. As far as I know, we don't have any subscription services yet where you join. So it's just like you just pay, turn up and pay.
Yeah.
There are a few free ones still run by councils, but I'm sure that's going to finish soon.
Are they fast chargers? Are they rapid chargers?
Yeah, pretty good. From what I've seen, they're all pretty good. And we're just getting a new one put in the local village near us. So, although as usual, it's tucked way down behind the town hall, away from the street. which I have a bit of a problem with.
Yeah.
They always seem to be way out of the way in the dark, no protection, and so yeah, I'm not too happy
we've
about
had
it.
something like that come up before. Was it? I don't know if it was yourself that raised that. It's one of those issues, isn't it? That
Yeah.
I find looking for them to be a bit of a challenge as well, because you're generally following a kind of one-way system. Certainly over here, where you very rarely find signs to the EV charging points.
Exactly. Yeah, and that if you're looking on your app or something, there'll just be a dot, and it might be tucked way down the back of the car park, and yeah, I mean, I'd prefer that they were near a fuel station or in the fuel station. I'm not quite sure why there aren't deals like that being done. They'll things will happen, but it's all a bit primitive at the moment.
Yeah. So Dave, do you charge a lot publicly?
Yes, I do at the moment, because I've got a car parked in front of my charging point, so I can't reach it.
Right.
So I'm
Okay.
doing 100% public charging at the moment. So hopefully that will change in the next week or two. But I am reliant. Unfortunately, I am right by a motorway junction service station, which has the 30 pence a kilowatt hour, which is, I find, reasonable.
Yeah.
After all, they've got to pay VAT at 20%, which we don't at home,
No.
and they've got to make a profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's expensive kit as well, isn't it? So
God, yes.
Yeah. I think 30 to 40 pence I'm quite comfortable with. Like I say, the 69 pence for Ionity
It's a bit much.
it worked out equivalent. I think the amount of miles I got was equivalent to 30 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
So that 10 kilowatts, it would have done 30 miles that evening. Yeah, it was working out at 30 miles to the gallon.
Which is not great.
convert it to fuel. What about you, Miles? You do some travelling around, don't you? Delivering and picking up.
Yeah, fortunately, I've not really had to use any public chargers recently. We have, however, just been in the process of installing some chargers at our dealerships and trying to work out what sort of fair tariff to set for those, because realistically, we only want to use them ourselves. We want to use them for our staff cars, for our demonstrators and all that sort of stuff. But if somebody's in need, what do we do? So that's still a discussion ongoing. I also cancelled my Pulse subscription within the last sort of month or so.
Yep.
Because I found I kept it as a bit of a get out of jail free card, because over the years it was kind of like, well, if you had the card, it was more really reliable than the app. So I kept the subscription for that purpose in the case I ever needed to use a Pulse charger anywhere. But now a lot of them have gone to contactless or just useless. So I thought, out the number of times I looked, and I basically used a BP Pulse charger twice in the last 12 months. And I thought, £7.85, what's that like? Sort of 80 quid a year. I thought it was probably a cost I can save. And ultimately, that £80 would pay even for quite a few Ionity chargers. So
but 3 or 4 years ago, it was worth having, because they're quite heavily discounted and they mostly worked, which isn't the case now.
No, and I think that, like I say, it's got to the point where even the pay-as-you-go rate versus the monthly charge as well, it doesn't really make any saving to have the monthly fee unless you're using the same charges monthly, probably on a couple of times a week basis. Then it might work out slightly cheaper to have the thing, but very, very little. Well,
at the moment, grid server the cheapest.
Yeah,
by far.
And I think that I say 30, 35 pence. I mean, I've charged on Ionity a couple of times, and I think, to be fair, for me, rapid charging is a kind of grit your teeth and bear it sort of situation, because if you need to charge, you need to charge. I put a post on Facebook earlier today saying about my wife running a car yesterday, 12-hour shift, and it cost like £1.13 to charge at home when she got back, because we were on off-peak rates. And that was 12-hour shift with heating on, full whack, and driving around in a 4-wheel drive electric vehicle. And one of my friends had commented and said about charging, and but it's not very convenient for people. My friend has a Tesla, and he was driving from Bournemouth to Lancashire at the weekend, and got to Kiel services, and there was a power cut, so they couldn't charge there, so they had to drive on to Charnock Richard, and they arrived there with 1% left, and that's not very ideal. I said, well, no, but quite selectively that, because yes, he's gone to the next supercharger, Tesla supercharger on the route, but he's passed 3 chargers at one services, 2 at the next. There's a Shell station. He passed the 8 rapid chargers at junction 27 on the M6. Just another, and then to go to Charnock Richard just because it was a free supercharger token he had. Now, if you've got a £65,000 car, you're bothered about an £8 paying £8 on a non-supercharger, and you'd rather risk running out on the motorway in a storm. To be fair, that's just absolutely ridiculous. It's like I'm going to be going up to Scotland on holiday for a weekend in a couple of weeks, and I'll probably stop at Gretna for a charge at Ionity because they've got 4 stalls there. It's faster than the others, and yeah, you know what? I'm going to pay £15 for that charge, but I'm going to be doing it once, and it's going to work, and I'm going to get there, you know. And it's whereas if I thought, oh well, you know, I go a little bit further, I can get onto a Charge Point Scotland charger that happens to be off network at the moment. It might be on free bend, and I get there and somebody's already charging. Then it's cost me an hour, and you know what? I'm paying, you know, a couple £100 for the hotels and everything else. Now I'm going to be paying for food and drink and everything else. £15 for a charge really isn't that much as a one-off situation. I appreciate, Dave, if I was in a situation like you are where you're having to live off the supercharger at the moment, or the rapid chargers there, then yeah, I probably would be looking at the cheapest option. But at the moment, for me, it's
you're paying for the convenience, aren't you? Paying for the service. You know, they're good chargers, like you say. You know, they're going to be working, aren't they? And
well, not being funny, I paid £4.50 for a cheese toastie at the station, train station the other day because my train got cancelled, and I was stuck there on a freezing cold platform on Friday, at Manchester Oxford Road, absolutely shivering my bits off, and there was a Costa. That was the only shop that was actually there and thing. There was no vending machines or anything. There was a Costa, and it was a cheese and ham toastie for £4.15. But I paid it because it was I was blooming hungry and cold, so it was that and a coffee. So it was like £7 or something for neither a meal nor a deal. But it was that you're willing to pay it because it's something you need. And I treat rapid charging the same way. If you're gonna
that's good.
Do a long journey, just you're willing to pay what you're willing to pay. But I think certainly for one thing I don't like with Pulse is the cost of the 7 kilowatt charge is going so crazy high as well.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
And I think that's one of the things that you can justify with the high cost of equipment for the slow charge, if they're rapid chargers. But with 7 kilowatt chargers, I think that the price needs to be more sort of 20 to 25 pence per kilowatt hour at the max, really. And I think that anything more than that is, particularly if you're on a subscription, is just taking the mick.
Well, yeah. Well, the only reason I kept the card until recently was I had some free local chargers that were on the which I could go and park up and vend and go and do some shopping and come back. But they stopped working, and they never maintained them. So that was it.
Well, so you don't mind paying the subscription if you think it's going towards the maintenance of the system, so you can rely on them. But
fine, yeah, but it isn't.
That's the problem. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much.
I have a question. You know that the apps that you have that tell you where all the charging stations are.
Mm-hmm.
Do they show the price of each machine?
Some do, yeah.
Most
can do, yeah. Yeah, if you click into them, they show you the price.
Okay.
Which is often correct, but sometimes not.
I think taking your point as well, Miles, about if you're going to charge, if let's say you're comparing it to, you're going to get a charge anyway. If it was going to cost you £5, but this one's cost you £7, but it's a reliable.
Oh yeah, totally, 100%. Yeah, so it's not like you're going to get it
cost
free.
you £2. Yeah, because you're going to have to spend a £5 anyway. So the extra £2, it's a bit like the sandwich, the toastie you're talking about. If you buy it somewhere else, it's going to be £3, but you're going to buy something to eat anyway. So it's actually going to cost you £1, something a bit, more, I guess. If we look at some questions, we've got quite a few questions. Malcolm Wardlaw asked pre the pod coming on, having problems connecting the app to the car. Could anyone produce a detailed video when registering. It accepts my phone number, but I don't get a verification code. Would this be, what app was this? Is
Right,
it
so this is for the iSmart for the new ZSEV. So
Right.
when you're logging in for the app, it asks you to put in your mobile number, and then it texts you a code so it verifies the user. And you select your country. So UK is +44. And then you put your mobile number in. You have to drop the leading 0 from the mobile number, otherwise it doesn't accept it. I'm guessing that's what Malcolm's doing. If you're still having problems with it, it's still not going through. If you look at the screen where it's highlighted mobile phone, if you look to the next side along, it says email address. So you can actually put your email address and use that as a way of logging into the app rather than your mobile number.
That's a good tip, just in case then. And then we got David Martin asked a question on the podcast in the forum about the lost MGs from Euphrates Highway.
Yeah, so that's regarding a shipment that came into Southampton. The Euphrates Highway is a boat.
Oh, the ship, right. Sorry, I was wondering, I thought it was a road.
No, and yeah, it came in on 3rd of November to Southampton, and the expected delivery dates around 20 to 25th of November. Cars are waiting at the moment. So basically, cars that, well, MG has got a number of cars, obviously, that it's bringing in as transporters. Some of them are electric vehicles and some of them are not. Now, all car manufacturers are targeted based on the number of, on total CO2 emissions of the cars that they sell. And if their average of all of the cars that they sell is above 90 grams of CO2 per kilometre, they pay a tax. And the tax is €70 per gram per car they've sold. So if you've sold 1,000 cars in the year, which MG's sold more like 30,000, if you sold 1,000 cars and it was 1 gram over, so you'd done 91 grams to 90, it would be that you'd have to pay €70,000 fine.
Wow.
Now, as it's 30,000 cars we're talking about and everything else, you've got to be really careful, because if you suddenly get a shipment of a whole load of petrol cars in and you don't have the electric cars here to offset them, then what could happen is that you register these petrol cars. The electric cars might arrive the first week of January, but unfortunately by then you're paying the tax on what happened in 2020. So they're having to be cautious about the cars that they let through at the moment, because unless they can balance it out with electric cars, potentially it could be a massive fine. And this is the same for an awful lot of manufacturers. So Kia and Hyundai have done something similar, where they've basically been forcing regs through of electric cars and holding back supply of petrol and diesel ones. It's particularly hard for MG because, if I say, with them coming such a long shipment time, it's not like you can quickly get some EVs sent across, you know, that were destined for a different country, for Germany or whatever, because they're all left-hand drive instead of right-hand drive. So you've got to, and you know, they're coming like 3 months on the water, and if there's a storm like there was this last week, that can throw your ship out by a week, which then, as we come up to Christmas, might make things tricky. So that is the reason I'm assuming, MG hasn't said anything, but that's the reason I'm assuming is for why these cars are not landing at the dates they thought. It could also be with some cars, such as the MG5, that they might be doing some software updates to them prior to sending them to dealers, which is what the next topic is, I think, isn't it? About
we can talk about that now. Yeah, that's well led into that one then. So, so you want to talk about the MG5 KERS thing?
Yeah, so there's a recall for the MG5, and it's to do with the braking system. So the braking system works fine. It's very safe, works at everything. But on KERS mode 3, there are situations where it's causing significant retardation to the car without putting the brake lights on. So basically, by EU law, there's a figure, I think it's 0.3 G, at which point the brake lights have to come on. So if the car is doing regenerative braking and the regenerative braking is strong enough to make it brake more than 0.3 G, then it has to put the brake lights on. and there's certain situations where the MG5 wasn't doing that. So it was slowing down, but it wasn't warning people behind that it was slowing down that much. And it works fine on the ZS EV. There's not been any issues with that. But yeah, for some reason it's on the MG5. They found this issue. Now, this was just, I think Les mentioned this back in February time, and I fed it back to MG at that time, and they've done further research since then, and they found that, yeah, there were some cases where it wasn't happening. So they've agreed to recall all the cars. Basically, they reflashed one of the ECUs on the car with a new software update, and then the brake lights will be coming on quicker and more often. Now, the MG5 is different to MG-ZS because the MG-ZS defaults to KERS level 3 when you turn the car on, whereas in the MG5 it defaults to the level 2, and you have to manually select level 3. So some people may never have noticed the issue if they've always been driving in level 2 anyway. They may never have noticed this is an issue, but yes, there's a recall going out to people. So it'll if all the servers are working great, it'll probably take about half an hour to an hour to do. Probably close to the half hour. If it just depends on how quickly they can get it in the workshop and plugged in and sorted. But again, that might be something that they're doing at Portbury. If it's because rather than send it to a dealer and then have them do the recall, they might as well do it whilst it's all in port, and they can just walk from car to car with a laptop and sort them all in one place. That could be a reason.
I just don't bother. I'll just leave it in 2. It's a bit easier, isn't it? But yeah, I find 3 is a little bit too aggressive anyway. I don't really find the need to use it. Okay, so contact the dealer, isn't it? That's what it.
Well, yeah, the dealers. Every registered keeper should have received a letter by now.
I got mine last week,
and it's all on MG5 and the long range MG5 as well. It affects both cars. So yeah, contact your dealer, get booked in, and they'll. I say it'll take around sort of an hour, half an hour to an hour, so you can just sit and have a cup of coffee whilst you're waiting for it. And because it's a recall rather than a service action, it gets logged with DVLA and everything, so there's a record that it's been done and fixed. So,
okay. Do you have the MG5 over in Australia? No, missing out. It's the better car.
Yeah, it's bits. I was actually looking up statistics about the demise of we call them station wagons here. I think you call them estates. And something like, I think there was less than 7,000 sold in Australia last year, down from like, I think it was 50,000 in the year 2000. So, and I've been trying to figure out why, and we just seem to have this incredible rise in number of SUVs, which and I'm still, some things that they class as SUVs, I think. Not really. It's something to do with the clearance, but even then, I think it's a bit of a nebulous term. So I don't really understand it. I think I read something that there's a bit of a rise in station wagons here because people are camping out of the back of them, and it's easier to find parking spots. If you haven't got the van and everything, and so people are rigging out the back of the station wagon for camping and stuff. So, but yeah, it's very strange. Maybe we seem to get all the other European models, like the Audi and the Skoda and the what else, Volvos and stuff. But yeah, I'm not quite sure why MG haven't even tested it, the waters here. So I don't know. Bit disappointing.
I think we have the SUV kind of thing going on over here, don't we? Hence the ZS being successful. I don't see many MG5s around, to be perfectly honest. Where are we going to go next then? Should we talk about, is there any other questions? Or
there's a few questions just coming in. I'm just looking at those actually. So oh god, it's suddenly scrolled the whole load more now. 1 second.
There's one about the Teslas as well. Someone's asked about that was being trialed in
Netherlands.
Yeah, so Andrew Dyson's asked about what does anyone know about the Tesla charging network being made available? It's a trial in Holland, isn't it?
Yeah, the Netherlands. I think there's 8 to 12 stations they've unlocked there to see if they're working. They would be suitable for MG if they open up in the UK. One thing that I've noted about the Tesla charging network, though, is that they're busy a lot of the time. When I've been past them, there's an awful lot of Teslas out there nowadays, particularly the Model 3s. So,
Yeah.
but again, I don't know if the Teslas obviously have the routing which directs you to the nearest supercharger, which is great. But if it's like the case of that friend of my mate who's driven past potentially 20 other rapid chargers just to get to the supercharger because maybe he didn't know about these other ones in the mapping, then perhaps that's why those supercharger sites get busier, because that's where they're being directed to rather than the next nearest one. So
yeah, we don't. I guess we'll just wait and see on that one, don't we? Price increases, Miles. There's one for you. Derek Parr's asking. Just wanted to ask if MG UK are going to be increasing their prices on the list prices of their cars, as my local dealer is telling us to order in December before a New Year 3% increase. Have you heard anything?
MG have said that, and in fact, on this podcast when I was interviewing Guy Pikiniakis a month or so ago, he said that there would be a price increase due to the cost of transportation, particularly. So the transporting the cars has gone up by 600% increase, shipping them from China. So there's been a cost increase for them, so they're going to be increasing the price in the UK. Now, I don't know whether the new ZS EV is likely to have a price increase. I think it's probably already been baked into the price they're quoting now, but the MG5, the HS PHEV, and indeed the petrol cars, if anyone still buys those, they're all likely to have a price increase of around, sort of 3%. It may be slightly more on some models, just down to changes in the exchange rate as well, which affects things, but mainly it's the transportation cost. So it's that extra £1,000 or so that it's costing per car to ship cars across now.
Okay. We were going to talk about update on the new ZS, weren't we? Not so about.
So the new ZS, so we covered it quite a lot in the last podcast. Our demonstrators arrived last week, and I'll be honest, I've not. I mean, obviously, I drove the car at the press launch, and I talked about that 2 weeks ago. Our demonstrator arrived last week, and I've not actually had a chance to sit in it yet because, I've been busy with all of the brands and things that I've been doing, but also the car's been out every bloody day on test drive. So we've got so many people desperate for it. We've actually registered 2 cars now per branch as test drive cars because we just couldn't keep up with demand. So obviously people want a decent test drive. They want to try the car for, a good, ideally sort of an hour, really, to sort of get a feel for the car. And then we've got to have a bit of a sort of time to have a bit of a changeover and a wipe around the car because of COVID and everything. So it means we can't do that many test drives a day. And at weekends, obviously, which is a higher demand.
Dave, have you tried one, Dave?
Sorry?
Have you tried one?
No, I haven't. I would buy one in a heartbeat.
Without driving it?
I haven't driven it yet, no.
Would you need to drive one?
No.
Really?
I wouldn't. I'd just buy it in a heartbeat because it solved 90% of the issues with the older one. I have a journey I could do once or twice a year that would make my life much better with having the range. And that's a drive down to southern Spain, which I would like to do early next year. However, it is the only journey that I actually need it for.
Yeah.
But all the other bits are great.
I think as well, Dave, with your current situation with charging, you'd have to charge it half as often.
You'd have to do what?
You have to charge it half as often with the current situation. If you're going to rapid charge, you can do, because realistically, you're probably charging when you've got 40 or 50 miles left, I guess, probably in yours.
No. I charge about once a week.
You run it right down and then charge it.
I run it. Yeah, it's at 5% at the moment.
Ah, right, okay.
So I'll go across the road and pick up the rapid, and then I'll get a decent. I'll get 70 out of it when I'm charging. So
70 kilowatts. That's another thing as well. I'm hoping tomorrow night to be able to test the charging rate on the new one, because as every time the car's been on slow, every time I get to the car, it's on like 100% charge because it's been charged overnight, ready for the test drive. So I'm picking it up tomorrow afternoon and keeping it overnight. So I'm going to have to do some fairly hectic driving tomorrow to try and flatten the battery and then take it to an Ionity. Yeah,
I think the reality is, I think charge rate is becoming the new battery size, because it's almost more important to be able to charge at 120 rather than 70 or 80, because it just makes your journey so much easier.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, Jennifer, is the new ZS coming to New Zealand? I keep saying New Zealand, sorry, Tasmania or Australia.
From what I hear, no, I think we're waiting another 12 months.
Right, okay.
There hasn't really been a launch date given. They say, second half of 2022, which I sort of take as late second half of 2022. And so there's been a bit of speculation about the price, of course. Again, it's what Dave was saying, all the problems, like with the glass and the software and the towing and the headlights, all those sort of things have been solved. So I mean, I'd be happy to pay, considerably more if you get more for your money, which you seem to be, that from what I hear, that seems to be happening. So yeah, but it's just, we got to wait.
Does it come with tinted glass like it did in the launch video?
So the new ZS in the UK comes with lightly tinted glass. So I'd say it's probably akin to what you'd find on the front windows of a Mercedes. So it's probably like an 85% light transmission tint. So it's 15% darker.
But better than nothing.
Yeah, it's got UV protection and it doesn't act quite as much like a greenhouse. So that's good.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, obviously there's still opportunity. It still doesn't come with privacy glass. There's still no option for that. So that's an aftermarket thing if you want to get privacy glass fitted. Yeah.
Like there's a black one, isn't there? Does it come in black?
The 5 colors. It's got the new Battersea blue. You've got and then you've got the pearl black, which was from the same model as the original. You've got Monument Silver, which is a new color for ZS. You've got the Dynamic Red Tri-Coat. You've still got your Arctic White solid color. And is that 5?
Yep.
It'd have to be Team Red, I think, for me. Right.
Hey, Miles, I just have a question. Someone asked me, does the charge port at the front in the new one, does it have a light?
Not as such, but it does have, once you've plugged it in, it's also a completely different design. So it hinges sideways, so it doesn't obscure any light naturally that might be falling from the sky, which is one of the issues with the old one, is that you lift up this big thing and it completely obliterates any sort of light from street lights and things coming down. But the new one side hinges, and then inside, when it's plugged in, it's got like a battery level 4-stage gauge which lights up as it's charging, so you can see how charged it is at a glance at the front. So on the previous one, obviously we had the light up MG badge which glows. On this one, it's got this incremental 25%, 50%, 75%, 100% battery gauge.
Oh.
And door sealing, not rubber bungs, which is easier.
Yes, so they look like plastic click flaps on springs, so that you take a little tab in and it springs open. And you've got the CCS cover only opens if the top cover's open, so you can't get it the wrong way around. And if you close the CCS, it closes both together. But yeah, it's it's good. I'm just looking at some of these comments just coming in. Sorry, I just saw people asking about is there any news on a price for the vehicle to load adapter for the MG ZS EV? No, not currently in the UK. I asked today actually to MG, and they said that it's going to be, the pricing is still being worked through, and we don't have any actually in the UK yet, so we'll get the notification at some point in the next month. I'm expecting it to be around £200, £250. Apparently it's going to be in the format of like a gang lead sort of thing. So you've got like a plug that goes, a Type 2 socket plug that goes into your socket. Then you've got like a couple of meters of cable, and then you've got a outlet plug. But I haven't physically seen one. I just had it described to me. Any news on accessories? I received MG5 EV long range on 9th of October without some of the accessories I ordered, such as mudguards, as was promised they'd be available in November. Sega, you need to speak to your dealership because MG has streamlined the amount of accessories that they do. and basically now only offers carpet mats and charge leads, and that's about it. They really don't offer any accessories at all now. Because before you used to be able to get bling bits of chrome to go on your car and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, no. So you've basically got carpet mats and the Type 2 charging lead. That's about the only accessories you can get for your car now. So mud guards have been deleted, as have tow bars and things like that. Tow bars, you're now advised to go and contact Witter Tow Bars in the UK, who were the provider of all the tow bars for MG in the past. They just used to order them in from Witter and then stick a nought on it. So instead, you can get it directly from Witter now. Incidentally, Witter tow bars charging about £650 for a tow bar for the new ZS EV.
That sounds a lot. Is that a lot for you guys? I don't know what the normal price is.
That's a fully fitted price, and with a mobile fitter coming out to you, I think that's pretty standard, really. To be fair,
with the electrics as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You normally expect it to be like a supply only. You'd probably expect to pay around sort of £400, I'd say, for a tow bar in the UK, with the electric kit and everything as well. So a couple £100 for someone to bolt it on sounds fair, really. Let's have a quick look. Miles, will the price increase be applied to cars which have already been ordered? No. So if you've ordered your car and you've agreed a price, that's locked in. That's one of the reasons for putting your order in now rather than later. Jake says he drove a ZS EV this weekend. It has all the improvements. So range, app, comfier seats, improved infotainment system. And at 0 degrees centigrade, at 100%, the new ZS showed 220 miles. That's with the heater and the seats on. And that's after it had been, that's reflecting how it had been driven as well. And it was literally, I mean, on Sunday it was snowing. It was proper poor weather. So yeah, so obviously 273 is the WLTP, but in cold weather, if it gets over 200 miles, I think a lot of people will still be quite happy with that. It's realistically almost double what you were getting probably in the original ZS EV in snowy conditions. Can Miles try and get a general charge profile, not just report a peak that's held for a minute or two? How much power is taken on board in, say, 30 minutes is a good measure. David, I'll try for you. I gotta be honest, tomorrow it's going to be me off the clock trying to drive the car and find a charger and do a charge. And if the weather's like it's been of late, it might not be the best advert for the charging rate. I'm just saying, with it being like, -6 this morning here, it might not be best charging. But having said that, it's got a battery heater on it, so we'll give that a go as well if it's cold and see if that makes any difference. But yeah, I'm going to try and get it down to a low charge rate if I can. It just depends how many test drives we've done during the day and how far I have to drive after work to try and get it down. Brian Collis ordered his ZS EV long range, tried it locally last Saturday, was very impressed. In Europe, apparently the vehicle's load plug costs €250. So yeah, 200 to 250 pounds in the UK probably. What about the Granite lead? Gary Yates says. What about it? It comes with one still in the UK. You don't get a level. You don't get a Type 2 as standard. But of course, if you order from Trolley Group, as per previously said, if you want to order from Trolley Group and you mention that you're on the podcast and you've seen me, then you get £500 off. You get a free Type 2 lead and you get a free set of mats. What else do we have to talk about, guys? Sorry.
Right, yeah. So should we? Someone's asked, actually, I don't know if you know, Jennifer, the amount of EVs that are in Tasmania. Do you know?
Last time I looked, I don't know, 600, something like that.
600.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a question there. Okay, so how about so I'll talk about mine, shall I?
Please.
So I've had my car. I got it last day of December last year. Never really driven an EV. Never knew anything about it, and I've just gone over 20,000 miles in it. And I must admit, I'm still really loving it. Just the way that it drives. It's an MG5. it's now called a
Standard range, yeah.
SR, standard range, or yeah, skinny range, or whatever it is. But yeah, so I wish I did have the long range, because it would help me out of a bit of a hole like I was in today. But I just sort of want to talk about how in those 20,000 miles, some of the things that I've come across, and it's only sort of until you start reviewing things and you realize actually hasn't caused us any problems. It's cheap, affordable motoring once you get the car on the drive, kind of thing. And I was looking on, things like the apps as well. I didn't have a choice for the app to use for charging, so I bought a wall charger. It was a Rolex one, I think. Even learning about that was quite a steep learning curve, because it was down to when can you get one fitted. I had the car, and I'd ordered the car, should I say, and it took a long time, I think about 6 weeks maybe, to get one on the wall outside the house. So the one that I chose was Rolex, and then I ended up with EV charging app, I think it is. What is it? Yeah, EV Energy rather. Which was quite tricky to start with, because it wasn't charging at the right times, even though I was trying smart charging. It was kind of, I'd get up in the morning and it hadn't charged, and I was having to then kind of force that charge. I don't know if anybody's had that with their ZSs at all.
It was an issue, I think, with the Rolex. Yeah. Originally there was, I think both the Rolex themselves and MG both did a software update which cured that later.
I don't have any problems with it now, but I tend to get into that habit of now, when you're locking up the house kind of thing, charge your car up, then you hit the Octopus Go rate as well. But one thing is I've learned from it is how much energy prices are. It makes you so kind of keyed into how much a kilowatt hour is. And you find that when people ask you about the car and you're talking about the electricity prices and what kilowatts are, the eyes glaze over, don't they? And you realise actually they haven't got a clue what you're on about. But I just wanted to sort of say really that I feel as though if anybody ever asked me, would you go electric again if I could start again, it would definitely be a yes. Just mainly because of the running costs, a little bit of green, I think, as well, so being a bit greener, and the servicing. I've had a service and it would have cost about £120, I think, something like that. But I do have the service charge. So
how much was the servicing on your Mercedes you had before?
Don't really want to talk about that. The last service I had with Mercedes was around about £900, because it was the gearbox that was being serviced as well. So when you look at how much I've spent, I looked on the app earlier this year, doing 20,000 miles, some public charging, but not a massive amount. The app tells me I've spent less than £600 on electricity.
Yeah,
which is outrageous, isn't it?
For 20,000 miles, yeah. And it's like, I mean, I looked at our charging, because my wife asked me this morning. She says she was talking to a friend about electric cars, and she says, "How much did it cost to charge my car?" And I was going to sort of like spout something like, just think of a number and multiply it by the battery size. I looked on my charger app and saw that for the charge that I'd done last night after she'd had this 12-hour shift, it costed £1.13.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I said to her, £1.13. I looked at how much it's per month, and I think it worked out something. We're spending about £40, £50 sometimes per month, but that's charging 2 electric cars.
Yeah.
So that's all of our fuel needs for our, for transport, per month for 2 cars. So it's like, well, if it's costing £40 or £50, I literally, if we were in a petrol car, we would be doing probably at least £50 a week each.
Yeah.
So it's cut our costs by probably about about 10-15% of what it was before.
Yeah, that is brilliant. And one thing I can't get over really is it's not anxiety as such, but it's always that what if. We had a trip to Norwich a couple of weeks ago with 4 adults in the car. So the 4 of us. Pretty chilly kind of day, and we got there, charged after about 100 miles, had breakfast, got back, car was pretty much full again, got to Norwich, and there's nothing in between, like the edge of the M25 and Norwich as far as charging is concerned. But got to Norwich, watched the football, and then on the way out, that's when I met the Ionity charger. And obviously we sat on there and we had some food while we were waiting there. The next bit was getting to St Albans, and I think we looked on the app and there was something like 6 chargers at South Mims. And when we got there, they were all fenced off because they're being dug up and renewed. So I probably had about 20 or 30 miles left. So then went to another services near St Albans somewhere. And there were 2 people charging up there. One was on kind of 93%, but no sign of anybody anywhere. So decided to go to the next one, which showed it was a Shell garage with 4 rapid chargers. Got there, and the worst thing is the mileage is going down. It's getting later, and they were shrouded in these signs saying "coming soon."
Oh no.
Oh yeah, and by then we had about 10 miles left, so we ended up going back to the one where they had the 2 on there, and the person on the 93% had come off, and we plugged in, and then that got us home, no problem at all. But it was one of those things where going up there was perfect. We charged and we got there. Coming back, and there's always that worry in the back of your mind, and I think we've got a long way to go, haven't we, before we're not concerned about that.
No, totally. I mean, one of my
David,
friends.
shaking your head.
I am, because I have no problem like that at all, ever.
But that's the rural bit of Norwich, isn't it? I guess where the bit.
I think the issue is, it's the what works nearby. Like Dave, you'll know certain chargers don't work, so you'll know to avoid those. You'll know that certain chargers have got to cover them, so that's it. But I think that it's the unknown, isn't it? And it's the fact that you get one, even if you get one event like that where it's not working. It's like if you were down to your last, drip in the petrol tank, and you got to a motorway services, and they closed the petrol station, it was all boarded up. You'd be like,
what are the chances?
What now? What now? What?
But this is it. My point there was that I had to charge up there because I couldn't charge up in between. So I find that maybe where you live, Dave, I don't know, but certainly my kind of, again, I don't think it's not anxiety, but it is just always in the back of your mind. Even today, I plugged in and then still think about the time that I was stuck on a charger in the spring where the HP battery shut down. I still don't trust it. That's probably a trust thing, I think, more so than anything else. Would you agree with that?
I don't have that issue at all.
Which are you then?
I honestly don't. So I have a 10 mil spanner, and if it shuts down, I'll just reboot the car.
Work, yeah. What about you, Jennifer? Do you have long journeys?
We have a lot of range anxiety here. I don't think we've taken our car probably much further than 200 k's from home, 200 kilometers from home, just because my partner is very stressed about it. And similar situation where you might have a bank of 6 and maybe 3 aren't working or something. We might have 1. So if that 1 isn't working, it's a big problem. So we're supposed to be doing a big trip sort of into the wilderness areas, we've got to change some cars over for someone who's doing a big hike. And I was interested in taking the EV because it's a fantastic road, fantastic drive, but the lack of charging infrastructure, even if you fluked that they were all working, well, when I say all, there's probably 3, dotted around, it's still too stressful. It's so for us, it's not, we're just going to take the petrol car. It's not worth you'd have to really arrange the trip. I mean, it's difficult enough, but just even if you're doing petrol, you have to work it out. So with the electric, it's really not an option down here at the moment.
But the whole of Tasmania only has 13 rapid sites.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
So,
So it's
13.
a bit of a
13, I'm just
worry.
looking now on the map. So
There's more
Coventry, then.
coming, you know. Until
Coventry's
then,
got more
I
than
think,
that.
yeah.
in fact, Tamworth's got 4. So
Yeah, yeah, no, it's that's the issue. And I live in Yorkshire Dales, and there's now some charges, but there were, a couple of years ago there weren't, and it was, But the thing is, as well, it's I've been reading some things recently about various councils not really getting on board with it. There's somebody in the Lake District applied to have a driveway put in there on their property and to fit a car charger, and they got it turned down by the council because they said it's an area of natural beauty and they shouldn't be spoiling the gardens basically by making a driveway. And they said that if one did it, it would set a precedent and they'd all want electric cars. And it's like, it's things like that, so this person's now bought an electric car and can't charge it anywhere locally, so they assumed that they'd be able to get, I suppose, in a way they could perhaps have applied for planning before got the electric car, but still, it's, you'd think that the governments would be trying to do more to encourage usage. And it's like there's, Tesco's near us has just started to install some chargers and then doing the standard install of a 22 kilowatt fast charger and 2 7 kilowatts on a post. And that's great, but it's a 600 car park at this big Tesco's. And so you've got, 3 charging points, which have already been iced. That you think, well, if you're going to do it properly. We've installed chargers at one of our dealerships in Blackpool, and we're just in the process of sorting out the chargers for the new MG dealership at Chorley. And so at Blackpool, we've just installed 8 22 kilowatt chargers, but we've put ducting and got enough space to install a further 8. And this is it's a car dealership. We don't obviously make any money from charging the cars, but we're using them for our own fleets, for our own demonstrators. And we know that obviously at the moment we've got, for example, Kia have got the e-Niro, the Ioniq, the EV6, the Soul EV. They've got various plug-in hybrids as well. And the EV6 can charge at 22 kilowatts, so that's why I've installed 22 kilowatt chargers all over. And they're all load managed so that if everyone plugged in an EV6 at once, it wouldn't blow the grid. We'd have it down rated a little bit and stuff. But it's that's a sort of, if we're one little car dealership and we're thinking about doing that at one of our sites, councils should be getting behind this. There was another example off Facebook of a council that said they wouldn't install 2 chargers in their council run car parks in this town because they were concerned that it would reduce the number of spaces that were available for non-EVs, and at the moment they didn't think and they thought therefore that would reduce their income from the parking charges because there wouldn't be enough people using it. It's like, how short-sighted is this? With the target of 2030 for all petrol and diesel car sales to come to an end, and the number of EVs just going through the roof at the moment here in the UK. It beggars belief that you're not looking at installing arrays like Dave's got on his picture behind him, that you're not looking at installing big things like that, because ultimately that's what we're going to need. I've got one of my friends commented on my Facebook post today saying, it's good for you, you've got a drive, but I live in a terraced house, as does 80% of the people in this town, because it's Haworth.
do I.
It's Haworth. It's a little, it's all cobble streets and things like that. We can't charge outside our houses. What are we supposed to do? That's, well, really, what you could do with is some sort of hub where you've got 8 to 10 rapid chargers, perhaps under some sort of canopy. Perhaps we might want to consider it as a forecourt sort of idea, maybe a little shop to sell people snacks whilst they're charging. And ultimately, a petrol station, nobody has a petrol pump at their house, but you manage with a petrol car. And the average person in the UK drives 20 miles a day. So that's, if you've got an electric car that does 200 plus miles on a charge, like the new ZS EV, realistically, you can do sort of like a week to nearly 2 weeks on a single charge. But you need to have that confidence of going to a charger and knowing that you've got, a fairly short wait to get onto a charger and use it. So we need loads more of those, grid serve forecourts or whatever. We need.
You're saying about like in city centres, if you had some space on an industrial unit not far from a city centre, how good would it be if you had maybe 6 chargers? You plug them in. How long are you going to be? Oh, we're going to be 4 hours. Okay, we're going to charge your car. We'll wash it for you. and it'll be outside shiny when you come back. And a lot of people would pay sort of £10 to £15 for that full charge in a car wash, wouldn't they? So there's those kind of things with a coffee shop, maybe, like you say. It's like they're talking about destination charging as well, aren't they, rather than charging from home. But the problem is, like, I've been to a few football matches now where we've taken the car on away trips. Ideally, it would be to leave it there for the 4 hours that you're there from, so let's say lunchtime until you pick the car up after the game. But you wouldn't leave it on a charger because you'd be more than an hour and a half. So your car's fully charged and you're taking up space. It'd be much better if there's a kind of valet thing going on as well, wouldn't there? But it's getting around.
Or even if you had some 7 kilowatt chargers, but they were easy to use, and if you had a fleet, if you had a bank of 7 kilowatts, at least that 4 hours that you were there for would add near enough 100 miles range.
Yeah, which would be ideal.
So that then
yeah, definitely. I know. I just noticed there that one of our regular contributors, Jeff Cartwright, says it's never range anxiety, it's charger anxiety. I think we've established that, really. It's a good shout. But going back to my scenario the other day, in a month's time, all those chargers will be up and running, won't they? The ones at South Mims will be running, the Shell one will be open. We wouldn't have had that problem. So there is sort of light, isn't there? And like Dave's experience is good. So hopefully it's all going to be like that in the future. Have we got anything else we want to go through? Oh, Costa drive-through. Mike Fisher's just saying in Newport has 2 Instavolt rapids. And again, things like burger chains should have those rapids, shouldn't they, really? Because you're spending 10-15 minutes eating a burger, you can plug in while you're eating.
That's the daft thing, is that the McDonald's in Burnley has got a 7 kilowatt pod point that actually only works at 3 kilowatts. So in the time it takes you to eat your burger, you've added less than a mile probably onto your range.
It's just not worth it, is it?
Yeah, no, rapid chargers make a lot of sense in fast food locations, because you've got a high throughput of customers. People aren't sitting ages in a McDonald's. So if you are, you need to look at your life a bit more. But it's you want it in a fast location like that. But likewise, in the UK when they first came about, if Ecotricity put all the rapid chargers in IKEA stores, which was daft because it takes you 2 hours to get through the checkout. So you need to have them in the right locations for the right sort of dwell time. And like I say, something like a stadium, sort of, football stadium, I think that 7 kilowatt chargers would be adequate in that location. And also you got the potential of, for the cost of one rapid charge, you could install probably 20 7 kilowatt chargers.
Really? Yeah.
So, and load manage it and all the rest of it. So I think that, potentially it means that in that 4 hours, you'd have 20 vehicles charged rather than, even if they were perfectly moved at the right time, 6, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Mars, that sounds like a sponsorship opportunity for MG and some soccer, football.
Yeah.
Well, MG do are sponsors of Liverpool Football Club, actually.
Well, maybe you need to get all the players onto EVs and put all the infrastructure in there.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I'll try and talk about their Lamborghini Hurricanes and things, but
yeah.
I've got a lovely MG5 for you here. There you go. There you go, Mo Salah. Here you go. There's your new car. It's an Arctic white paint, but that's okay.
What do you do at Liverpool then? What sort of sponsorship is it?
They sponsor the team. So there was a feature actually we did where we lent them, Trolley Group lent them a MG5, MGZS EV back in, December 19, was it? And they did a sort of car karaoke video thing with, who was there? Jordan was in there, wasn't there? And Jordan Henderson and I can't remember who else was there. Probably a couple of people who don't play for them anymore. And they took the car from the training ground to Anfield and back, and sort of chatting in the car and stuff. Which was quite good fun. Got to meet the players and stuff. That was nice. But that sort of thing that they do. They do their sponsorship in India. They seem to do quite. They've done a Liverpool Football Club special edition of the ZS Petrol, where it's like red with an additional body kit on it and things. And
Yeah. That's one I wouldn't be buying, I don't think, after Saturday, because we lost 4-0 there. So, yeah, okay. Anything else on the? Somebody said here about the cost of their 566 Jake Newis, the swan neck tow bar design.
Yeah, Jake's been going through the price list for me, so he says that.
Well done, Jake.
Yeah, so the swan neck tow bar design is 566. The detachable swan neck tow bar is 623, and the fixed flange tow bar, which has got 2-hole faceplate, which means that you can install a bike rack and take a trailer, is 655. I don't see the point on that really for the UK model, because for the EV, sorry, because the EV can only tow 450 or 500 kilos. So you realistically put a bike rack on there, you're probably not going to be taking a trailer as well. So, but yeah, removable swan neck for 623. That sounds all right. So you can take it off, so you don't bust your shin on it every time you try and get in the boot. If it's an occasional use thing. So yeah, but 566 is the cheapest fixed swan neck tow bar. That's quite reasonable, really, because that's fitted at your house as well. So the mobile fitting service comes out and fits on your driveway. So it's pretty good going, really.
I couldn't believe it. I don't know if anybody watched Top Gear as well. Someone mentioned it in the chats about they're doing the electric vehicle.
Their test, yes, their towing test, where
The hatchet job.
What a waste of time. I was hoping to see it in, well, not an MG5 because can't tow with it, but those caravans as well, ridiculous. Talk about not very realistic.
Well, the interesting thing is, so the Polestar, which they had on there, is the same as the Volvo XC40. Can actually tow, I think, 1.6 tons, so it didn't necessarily need a lightweight caravan.
Wow.
In fact, I think it'll do zero. If you get the 4-wheel drive version of the Polestar 2, it'll do 0 to 6. Normally it does 0 to 60 in like 4.7 seconds. If you stick a 1,600 kilo caravan on the back, you'll do 0 to 60 in 7 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
So it's quite a lot of power. It's like 400 horsepower or something. But yeah, it's
on the crockery.
Yes, yeah. So it's but yeah, no, it was a bit of a hatchet job they did on the thing, and then rallying it around the field, and then go, oh yeah, by the way, now I've got to drive 100 miles, because everyone does that, don't we?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, anything else? Have we not done something? I can't remember if there's anything else we've.
Oh yeah, we sponsor the Welsh team as well. Mike Fisher just pointed out. Yeah, MG sponsors the Welsh football team. Yeah, which explains why I was. It was the ex-Manchester United guy who's their captain. Gone. Name's completely gone. Likes to sleep with his brother's wife. What's that one?
Oh, I don't know.
The Welsh coach. He's
not Mark Hughes.
No. Ex-Man United. Anyway.
Stephen, yeah.
Ryan Giggs.
Ryan Giggs, that's the one. Giggs.
All right.
Yeah, he was at the MG Awards. Hope he doesn't watch this podcast, but MG Awards 2 years ago, and so he gave us the everyone's talking Giggs. Yeah, he was the one that gave me my EV sales award for platinum sales for most EV sales in the UK.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
he was obviously very impressed to meet me.
He probably talks about the time he met Miles.
He does, yeah. He's like, this guy does loads of podcasts. Yeah, I watch him every week.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, Brian Collis says Lidl are actually installing Rapids in many of their new stores, which is true. My favourite one being Bingley.
Bingley.
Aye.
You come up to Bingley by
I do indeed.
Yeah, so that's about 5-6 miles from my house.
Yeah.
The Lidl are installing Rapids in the stores. There's some. There are some local tours. Not actually any that I pass on my way to work, but yes, there are some. And as I say, all of these are going to have to get on board. Morrison's have started installing chargers as well, but typically it's only one.
Oh,
rapid charger is like you need. I think if you've got a rapid charger, you ought to put in a 7 kilowatt, at least 2 7 kilowatts as backup, so that if somebody's blocking the rapid charger, you've got a chance to get some charge.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Morrison's chose Genie Point.
Yes.
And Genie Point hates my ZS.
Yes, they've not for some reason, software issues have been. They were charging like sort of 20 kilowatts, weren't they? Instead of.
Oh, terrible.
But it's ridiculous. You could literally go from Ionity where it was charging at 70, and then take it to a Genie point, and it'd be like, no, 20. I don't know what's causing it. I don't know what issue it is. Apparently, everyone's looked into it, but yeah.
The last time I haven't used Genie points since my car froze on it. I just avoid them ones, definitely. Right, should we wrap it up then, everybody? Are we all done? Anything else to add?
Can't see anything else on there.
Are we okay? Okay, so before we go, there are a few things I want to bring to everybody's attention. There's a new brand on the market, car brand called Aura. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but we've got, so it says it here, if you're also interested in Aura electric cars and the Aura Cat coming to the UK soon, then sign up over at auraevs.com, which is our sister forum. So we're now related to another one. So ORAEVs, our sister forum. If you'd like to support us, please consider the MG5 Forum Premier membership for just £3 a month. It gives you the premium member badge, the ability to upload a profile banner, and the ability to select the red MG theme. So other than that, oh no, we've got some more, sorry, some more words down here. We also have a discount code for MG5's merchandise, so a full 10% when you use the code, and the knowledge that you're helping support the community and this podcast. And yeah, have a look at our merchandise. Right, so anyway, my thanks to Jennifer Curl, all over there in Australia in the morning. And then we've got Dave Bell and Miles Roberts from the Chorley Group.
Cheers, everyone.
It remains to be said goodbye from me as well, and we'll see you next time. Thanks and good night.
Bye all.
Bye.